Can you go in your terminal? Can you type dir space dash hidden? Let's see if there's even a git file. So dir space dash hidden with a capital H. Yeah, let's put that. These are all your hidden files. Okay, so we do have, so normally if you just say like dir, it's not going to show you this .git, but it's always a good thing to know what your hidden files are because we have this .git, something we didn't talk about yesterday that I'll get to today, is that you never want to have a nested repository. And so sometimes it's a good idea, especially if you're taking MERN, you want to make sure you don't have a nested git. So understanding how to get to hidden files is really helpful. So we have that. Christina, I'm with you.
Let's do it on your GUI. Let me see your file explorer and let's go to this one. We can show the hidden files and just delete it on your file explorer. Sorry, over the GUI one over here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, just any of them.
Yeah, go to the file that we're in right now. So your profile page one.
Okay. What fundamentals core?
Yeah.
Not the unzipped one, right?
Yeah, correct. And let's see if we can see your hidden files. So like right click and properties.
Yep. Oh, hidden.
Yeah. Click that and press apply. Yeah,
Everything, right?
yeah.
Ah, right.
Let's see if we see it here. Maybe refresh. No. All right, let's change that guy back.
Okay. All right.
Aha! Delete them.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Got him. All right. Sounds good. All right, so you should be able to attach this with a new repository. So like go to your Internet Explorer or wherever you have your GitHub online at. Yeah, and just make your new repo.
Okay.
And basically, if we did it right, when we do this init thing, then it should say initialize an empty repository. And that'll let us know if we did it right or not.
Okay. That's and those are all okay, right? Create repository.
Yeah,
Okay. No. Okay.
there you go. And we'll take it from the top. The only thing I suggest changing is this one. Rather than doing git add readme, I do git add and then a space and a dot. But let's get to this git init one and stuff first to just double check that we removed the git file correctly. So let's copy this one.
The hashtag, the whole
The
line.
second one.
Oh, the second one.
Yeah.
Get in. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, let's go to our terminal. I mean our VS Code.
Yep.
Cool. Paste it right in there.
Okay.
Yes, yes. Initialize empty git repository. Yes! You done did it. All right.
Oh, that's
Let's go back and we'll change them one by one. Yeah.
okay.
We'll do the next one. This is a good thing to do so that you can kind of see. So this is the weird one. We're going to do the git add, but we're going to replace those last couple words.
Okay.
And backspace a little bit. So yeah, do the delete button a couple times, lots of time. And
Okay.
just put a period. And what this says is just, hey, take everything in here and throw it in a package, basically. All right. And then hit
Oh,
enter. Yeah. And let's go to the next guy.
okay.
All right. And you can do the commit.
Enter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So far, so good. I'm not seeing any issues. Let's go to the next guy. And before we do the very last one, I'm going to tell you my cool analogy about the post office and GitHub so that these don't just look like gibberish.
Okay. Yeah, because when I was watching the video, they were able to just push it through and have it
Yeah.
populate.
Okay,
So I was
before
like,
you do this one, hold on really quick. So I'm going to tell you.
okay.
So think of this kind of like a post office, right? And like sending something in a package to a post office. So let me see if I can remember this right. So here we're kind of opening the box. Here we're putting everything into the box. Here we're putting like a label for the box. Here we're attaching the addresses to the box. And here we're shipping it off to the post office, my friend. So let's ship it off to the post office now.
So this actually connects it. It's like
Yeah,
the carrier getting it to the post office,
hopefully. Yeah.
delivering it.
Yes, it should be good now. So let's go refresh and it should be automatically right there
Oh, okay.
in theory. Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
So do I have to go through that process? And this is probably going to sound tedious because when I watched the video, I believe Marissa just like from her VS Code, that little branch, she had like an update to push it, like open folders and whatnot. And so is this, since I'm on Windows, do I have to like manually go through this whole process where I copy the
I
code into
really
the
like the
terminal?
terminal just because it's less buggy. And it would
Okay.
be good to help you get the practice with the terminal so it doesn't like freak you out a little bit as time goes on, just more practice with it. But I'm gonna put the changes on here. Get command, get add, get command, get
Also, just to
push.
clarify, that whole process is only at the beginning of yeah. So what Christina just put on, that's all you have to do moving forward once it's been sort of set up. So lots of setup, doing, the git init and then connecting the origin. Now, let's say you were to change something on the HTML, then what Christina just put on the screen, that's all you'll have to do. You just add it, you commit it, and then you push it. Those 3 commands moving forward. But
Ah,
only for this project. Anytime you
mhm.
have a new repository, you do have to go through that entire initial setup at the beginning. And then moving forward, you just have these 3 commands.
Okay. Yep, I'm gonna have to save this video. Thank you so much.
Yes.
All right, friends. So we are going to work on some algorithms since it's office hour and nobody has any questions. And we are going to start off, we're just in the section for JavaScript, and we are going to start off in the loops. Actually, I think it's the first one. FizzBuzz is kind of a legendary algorithm to kind of think through that involves a for loop and conditionals. So I think we should do this. This is a very common one, especially when you're dealing with like just development. FizzBuzz is something that most developers will know. So I want to make sure that you guys are available and or know about it. So what it says is using what we've learned about loops and conditionals, solve this classic coding challenge. It's been a favorite in interviews for years. I think now, unfortunately, this is probably too easy for interviews because it is so classic. But alas, we will figure it out. So we need to write a code that'll go from each number from 1 to 100. And for each number that's a multiple of 3, print fizz. For each number that's a multiple of 5, do buzz. And if it's both of them, do FizzBuzz. All other all other numbers should print normally. So I'm gonna take this. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna do this and this. Okay. So let's walk through this as a class. It's not going to be just Christine and I doing this. The whole point is I think we can do this as a class, easy peasy. Let me turn off Copilot. Okay, so now we do not have AI assistance or else it's going to write the whole thing for us. So there's something we haven't really talked about, and it's this idea of pseudocode. Does anybody know what pseudocode is? Or can anybody tell me what pseudocode is? Have you ever heard of it? Never heard of it. So
Probably
the idea
gonna
of
take a little bit of a. Oh, I was
go
probably
ahead.
gonna say, take a little guess on what it is, but
Yeah,
I
go
guess you're
ahead,
probably just
Jacob.
about to tell us.
No, you go
Is
ahead.
it just going off of its name? I could be totally off here, but is it kind of like almost like a comment a little bit? Like it's almost like
Yeah,
I guess like subtext, I guess, in a way
yeah,
for coding.
yeah. That's a great kind of way to think about it. Pseudocode is going to be very, very, very important for your interview process. The whole reason is what pseudocode is I'm going to say PSEU definition. It's basically you write out the steps of your algorithm in plain English. Sorry, I didn't know if you couldn't remember which plane it was. Okay, so it's where you write out the steps of your algorithm in plain English, or whatever language of choice if you have that, right? And so the whole idea about it is when you get a problem, you don't want to initially just jump in and try to start coding. And especially in a job interview, you want to think through the problem. What people want in a job interview is to see how you think, not necessarily see how good at coding you are. I mean, that's definitely a part of it. Don't get me wrong. But there has been moments where people have actually got the wrong answer and or coded, didn't finish the code, but based off of the way they thought and the way they were able to explain things, they were able to still get a job, right? Because that's really all that matters. I can teach you how to code and I can tell you how to, write a method. If you can think correctly, then that'll get you there. So let's kind of do that. The idea is that when you get a problem, you want to write out step by step of what you're going to do. And this allows you to kind of process and move the steps up and down and say, okay, well, if this happens, then this, then this, then this. And we have this full step on process, or this full step by step process that we can then just really go and say, okay, now I need to do that in code. And then we do that in code, right? And so it's just a way that we can think through this. It's another way that we can also think of what we call edge cases. So like, okay, what if it's 0? Do you want me to start with 0? What if, something like that. If you have some sort of unique case, it's a way that in an interview you can say, hey, how would you like me to handle blank, right? So give me just 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so let's think about this. What is our first step? Let's just write it out. Let's write out our first step. We are wanting to have a for loop, or we're wanting to iterate through something. I kind of give us the first step, I suppose. Iterate from 1 to 0. And then for each number that's a multiple of 3, print fizz. For each number that's a multiple of 5, print buzz. For numbers that are both, print fizz buzz. How would we first accomplish this? What's the first thing we're going to do? Initialization. What do you mean by that, Dan? Starting number. Okay. So starting the count from 1, start with 1. What are we doing to start with 1? Or do I just put 1? Or what am I doing? Yeah, so I'm going to do a for loop, right? So I'm going to say, I'm going to write a for loop. This is the pseudocode. Write a for loop that starts with 1, starts at 1. Do I want my for loop to go forever? When would it end? Ends at 101. And am I going every 2, every 1? How am I doing that?
Everyone.
Every 1, right? So I'm just going to say I++, or however you want, right? Or step equals, because it's the step counter of 1. Cool. So I have a for loop. Now what am I going to do? I wrote this for loop. Then what do I do? So right now it just is a loop that's starting at 1, going through 101. So we're gonna console log every number in the loop. Okay, so console dot log. I'm gonna say number. Okay, what else are we gonna do? Find out which ones. How am I gonna do that, Tuba? Print fizz. Divide by 3. I can divide by 3. What other tool have we learned that allows us to see if something is divisible? So we have an if statement. Yeah, modulus, right? So I'm going to say use if statement to see if divisible by 3. If it is, then what am I doing? So if true, yeah, console.log fizz. Okay. And then next, what, or, okay. What else could I do? An else. Okay, I'm letting you guys just kind of lead this. Else what? Use if statement for multiples of 5? Yeah. So I'm going to just say use if statement to see if divisible by 5. Okay, and then if that's true, then I'm going to console.log fuzz. And then what is another step I'm going to have to take? Combine them by and. Okay, so then I check if, so I'm going to say use if statement to see if divisible by 3 and 5. If true, console.log fizzbuzz. Cool. Then what else? Is this take care of everything? So we've got the fizz part, we got the buzz part, we got fizz buzz. What else do I need? Else, yeah. So I have an else. Yep, console.log number. Great. And these could be else ifs, right? I don't need 3 different if statements. Okay. Cool. So now we've got some of the steps here, and we're going to see, we're going to just build it and say exactly what we typed. And then we will see if we're right or if we're wrong or if we need to change something. So I'm going to write a loop for, I'm going to say let I equal, 1. I is less than 101. And then I plus plus. That's what we said, right? Then the next thing we said is we're going to console log number. So we're going to console.log I. Okay. The next thing we said is we're going to use an if statement. We're going to say if I modulo 3. And what am I going to do here? If I modulo 3, what? What would tell me that it's divisible by 3? Remember, yeah, exactly. Great job, guys. 0. Remember, a modulus just gives me a remainder. And so if something goes in evenly, right? So like 9, there's nothing left. So it's equals 0. that tells me that the number is divisible by 3. So if that's the case, then I want to console log phys. Perfect. Else if I said I modulo 5 equals 0, then I console.log buzz. Again, I'm just going straight off of what our tools say. Then last one, I said else if I modulo 5 or 3, sorry, equals 0, and I modulo 5 equals 0, then I console.log phys buzz. Okay. Cool. So then I said else I'm going to console.log I. Right? So I see a couple questions in the chat. Someone said you can also type elif. So elif will be Python. So Jeff, in Python, you say elif. You cannot use that in JavaScript. It's got to be else if. And then the 2 ampersands is how we say and in JavaScript. If I just type and, that's Python. That's how that works. Here are these 2 and signs. That means and. So both of these conditions have to be true. Of course. So Tuba, you said, but it feels like we will get extra fizz and buzz for 15. Hey, that's an interesting point. Who thinks that right now, if I were to run this, we're going to get it perfectly, everything's going to work fine? Roberto, why do you think that? Why should this, why are you, Roberta suggesting that this should actually be the first one? Why do you suggest that?
Because if, as it's written now, if
Is it me? Did I cut out? Can you guys hear Roberta?
you hit if be divisible by 3 and 5, it'll jump out at 3, the way it's written.
Yeah, right. So, sorry, it looks like my internet is not stable at the moment. But yes, what is happening, right, is if, and I'm assuming this is what you said, is that right now, this is if both of these are true. But knowing what we know about conditional statements means if either one of these is true before this one, then it's never going to get here, right? We're never going to read this. And so we know, though, that if this is true, then this is already going to be true, right? So we're never going to read this. And if this is true, then this one's already going to be true. And so we're never going to read this. So you're exactly right. We need to actually move that up. Oops, not that. Let's just move this entire thing. And then I'm going to change this to if. And here we'll have else if. Can you guys hear me? Is my internet okay? I can go off my
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Great. It just gave me the internet unstable and I was like, oh no. Okay. So now we're looking better, right? Good eye, Roberta. Good eye. Now, do we think this is what is going to give us everything perfectly? This is going to accomplish it? What do we think? Put a yes in the chat if you think, yes, this is going to give us Or put a no, and if you say no, what is something that you might think might trip us up a little bit? What was the thing that exits the if? Um, Nothing necessarily exits. Like if we have a return, it'll exit, or you can have like a break, but that's usually for a for loop. Unless you're talking about, remember, this is a conditional statement. This is what we call like a chain, right? Conditional chain. And so if any of these is true, then it just skips the rest of it. So that's what breaks the if, right? So that's why we want to have our unique one at the beginning. So that way, if like, because again, in order for this to be true, both of these have to be true, meaning that it would never get here if it was
But I
both.
have a question. I think,
Yeah.
and so if that's the case, then for all the multiples of 3 and 5, would they would not print Fizz individually and Buzz individually, correct?
Correct.
But but aren't we saying like initially we want for each number that is a multiple of 3 to print Fizz, and then for every number that is a multiple of 5 to print Buzz, so we would be short by a Fizz and a Buzz, even if
I
we
see.
move it up.
I see what you're saying. So the way the question should be written, and maybe this is where the confusion is it saying here's our first condition, right? Hey, if it's a multiple of 3 and just 3, then we print Fizz. If it's a multiple of just 5, then we print Buzz. If it's a multiple of both 3 and 5, then we just this supersedes these.
So do like an or, not necessarily print 3 multiples of 3, print multiples of 5, and then print multiples of both 3 and 5
Correct.
kind of
Not
thing.
an not
Okay.
not an not an or here, but yeah. So like 15 is going to be our first one. When you get to 15, because it's a multiple of 3 and 5, you're only going to print Fizz Buzz. You're not going to
Okay,
deal
so
with Fizz and Buzz here. You're just going to print this.
is there a way to like nest it to where you get the both 3 and 5, and then you also get the multiples of all the 3s and all the multiples of 5, or not necessarily? Like you'd have to separate it
Yeah,
out completely.
we could. Anybody know how we could quickly do that? What if I just did this?
So do complete like actual if statements each time.
Yeah. So if I wanted
Okay.
it, right, this would print Fizz Buzz if it was both. Then it would come here, and because this is a new chain, it would check here. And then if this was true, it would also print Fizz. And then, or if it was, the number 15, well, I guess what would happen is, yeah, because if it was, well, you would never, sorry, I'm thinking for 15, this is going to print Fizz Buzz, then it's also going to print Fizz, and then it's also going to print Buzz. In just this. That's the only the multiples of 5 is it gonna, and 3 is it gonna print all 3 of these. But it'll always print all 3 of these, right?
Okay, I think now it makes sense to me. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sorry, it was kind of a mind bender in my brain. I was like, wait a second. Because regardless, if it's just a multiple of 5, it's not gonna go in here. And so yeah, if I wanted it to, but this would print Fizz Buzz, and it would print Fizz, and it would print Buzz. Or else we could leave it the other way and then it kind of handles itself. Cool. Do we think this is going to work? There's one line of code that I'm a little bit concerned about, that it's not necessarily following what we're supposed to do here. Can anybody see this line of code? What line I'm talking about? So if it's a multiple of 3, we're only supposed to print Fizz. If it's a multiple of 5, we're only supposed to print Buzz. And if it's a both, we're only supposed to print Fizz Buzz. All other numbers should just print normally. What is a line here that could kind of mess up and not necessarily follow these directions? So yeah, Roberto, the first console log, right? Because even if it's a multiple of 3 and 5, or just 3 or just 5, we're still console logging it, but we're not supposed to, right? It's only the other numbers. So I can actually get rid of this. And then now our code should work, right? If I come here and I run it, we get 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz, fizz, 7, 8, fizz, which is 9, buzz. Cool. Then we get to 15, we get fizz buzz. 16, 17, fizz, and so on and so forth, right? All the way to 100, which is a multiple of 5. Cool. So we officially have fizz buzzed. Is there any questions, any concerns, any thoughts on this? No? Did this make sense? Yeah. Okay. We've got 5 minutes left. So I'll go ahead and stop the recording here.